All right, it's 6 o'clock, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. All board members are present. First up, we have the September 23rd public meeting minutes.
I make a motion to accept the September 23rd public meeting minutes.
Second.
September 23rd, 2025.
Discussion or edits? Okay, no discussion, no edits. All right, all those in favor of the motion, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great, all abstain. All right, minutes are accepted. Our next meeting is October 28th here at Canterbury Elementary School. Regular.
Yeah, we're meeting next week though, right?
Yeah, so, yeah, we'll get to the budget books fine. Is the calendar in the budget books already?
It should be.
Okay. All right, yeah, so we're meeting next week. I'll take you regularly. All right, public communication and correspondence.
This is
Yes.
Good afternoon, Superintendent, members of the board. My name is Andrew Torson. I just have a few concerns or remarks that I'd like to bring to the board on behalf of my family and then myself and other parents who have gone through potential same circumstances that have transpired over the last month or so. Is it okay if I sit? Well,
Yeah.
okay. I just have a few things. I'm going to stick to this and be brief as possible.
Yes.
That's okay.
And can you repeat your name?
Andrew Torson. Torresen. This is my wife, Brielle, who is accompanying me tonight. All right. So, Tuesday, September 2nd was our first preliminary meeting to give an overview about my son and establish a date for his evaluation through the early intervention process. He is autistic, and that's why we're going through this route with the Belmont school system. So it'll make more sense as I go. So again, Tuesday, September 2nd, Brielle, my wife, requested she be present at all visits with the special ed team members present. Ms. Cheyenne said that the team would look into this matter. Friday, September 5th was the evaluation in person, which my wife was present for. Friday, September 19th was the evaluation review meeting. At this meeting, it was determined our son did qualify for services through Belmont. All of the previous staff members that we're in contact with were present. Brielle was given the option of preschool or drop-off services. Per our previous requests, can my wife be present during only a 20 to 30 minute session twice a week? There was no response in regards to this matter. She was forced to ask the question again. In response to accepting either choice, can I be present? Brielle was told by Cheyenne, quote, no, there are laws prohibiting parents from being present in the classroom, end quote. Brielle left that meeting stating we will not accept services if she cannot be present and will wait for the school's proposed individualized education program. My wife thanked them for their time and their efforts toward this evaluation. Brielle was given 2 handbooks from this meeting. Over that weekend, in reviewing the documents, there's absolutely nothing in regards to parents being prohibited from being present in the classroom. At this point, Brielle contacted the New Hampshire Parent Information Center regarding this question about the apparent law that parents cannot be present in the classroom. Marine Shields responded stating there is no law prohibiting parents from observing their child and in fact states otherwise, that they are encouraged and allowed to be full and equal participants in the development of the IEP. After receiving this response, Brielle emailed the original faculty members with Ms. Shields' response, which I can provide to you at a later time if needed. Under the Elementary and Secondary Education Act on page 77, under section 11162A, states, and I quote, reasonable access to staff opportunities to volunteer and participate in their child's class, and observation of classroom activities. Brielle also requested the official document of the school policy be provided. Ms. Cheyenne emailed Brielle stating that she would not be present at the IEP meeting the following day, and also called to discuss her proposed goals for my son. Brielle did not respond to either due to the fact that Cheyenne or none of the team acknowledged Brielle's email in regards to the apparent law. Brielle went into the IEP meeting September 26th, accompanied by a member of the Early Support and Services team. Present were Don Gagnon, Christy Jewell, and Miss Melissa. Brielle was patient and went through the process. However, it was clear that they were unprepared, unprofessional, and condescending. Don led the meeting and went through the proposed IEP and once again asked, do we want to do preschool or drop-in services? And once again, Brielle asked if she could get a response to the email in regards to providing the law or policy prohibiting Brielle from being present for 20 to 30 minutes during a session. At this point, Don said they submitted a request to the legal team and is waiting to hear back. Brielle asked when this was submitted because she was told that they would look into it on September 2nd. And Don replied that they just submitted it after Brielle's email on that Wednesday. This inquiry only happened after Brielle sent the email, not when the team originally said they would check into this in the beginning of the month. The ball was clearly dropped and this team attempted to cover up the mistake instead of taking full accountability. Mr. Hill, the principal, was able to join this meeting for this meeting last minute and stated he had 2 minutes, which he wasn't able to task delegate the apparent afternoon announcements or dismissals to anybody else. His response to our inquiry about being present in the classroom as a parent and team's failures was dismissive, and his response was, quote, "It is a common practice that parents are not present in a classroom," end quote. Brielle did thank him for taking the short time and left the meeting. Mr. Hill, common practice does not determine laws or policies like your team has stated and has failed to provide. Don was also unable to provide the names or who the legal team consisted of, who the organization is. Since this time, Don sent Brielle the draft IEP to approve or deny. Brielle had to request the update on the legal team. Don stated they confirmed no parents allowed in the classroom. Brielle once again requested the official document stating this law, and Brielle never received a response. Brielle forwarded this interaction to Mr. Hill to take charge, and Mr. Hill has also failed to respond to this day. Two full business days have passed without even an acknowledgement. Here's the incompetence which has led to our lack of trust within this school system, and we'll share our experience and won't encourage any family within the district who has a choice to give their child into this school. Misspelling our name, our last name, at least 6 times consecutively in different forms on documents, official documents, failure. The staff never acknowledged my wife's emails, failure. Boldly stating there is a law without being able to provide proof, failure. Not verifying the laws or school policy, failure. Unwillingness to accommodate and laziness of staff, failure. Lack of communication and the inability to follow up when needed, failure. Leadership's lack of oversight and action when questions aren't being answered, failure. Unprofessionalism and condensation about serious issues during meetings, failure. Lack of transparency, holding back information unless directly asked and given bare minimum to avoid criticism, failure. No accountability taken, no apologies given by any staff member, including Mr. Hill, failure. Lack of communication and acknowledgement from Mr. Hill, failure. You have proven that you don't take parents seriously. If you don't take me seriously, then why would I trust you with my own flesh and blood? I, as a taxpayer of this town, I am one of many who pay your salary, and if this is the conduct of this school district, I wish I could take back every penny I give towards this school. I strongly suggest you, Mr. Hill, look into remedial training for your staff and employees to better serve the families of this community. This won't be the last time you hear from me or see me, and I will continue to discourage any family looking into sending their child into the school system. My wife was a graduate from Belmont and is one of the smartest people I've ever met. It's not about what your staff wants to do with children and your agendas, but how you can help develop them as individuals in their own ways. In your own words, or your motto, your school's motto, if you are to, quote, engage all learners to exceed in an ever-changing world, end quote, you will adapt with them and and for them, and not confine them into what you think is right. I hope parents within this community hear me, listen to this, and can make their own decisions from my family's experience. Needless to say, there is a strong reason why I'll forever homeschool my son and my next son instead of handing the generation over to the incompetent so-called leaders. I believe in God, family, and country, in that order. As a former captain of the United States Army, I was willing to die for my country, which is last on this list, so you can only imagine what I'd be willing to do for my family. Mr. Superintendent, I charge you with holding Mr. Hill, Don Gagnon, and the special education team accountable for their many failures. I expect full transparency from you and further communication regarding your actions to be taken on this matter and how you will resolve the issue. I expect to receive the official document which my wife has requested many times without response from this faculty. That shows the law or the policy that parents are prohibited from being, that parents are prohibited from being present in the classroom with their child, which is what this faculty claims. I also request the name of this so-called legal team and their address. And last point, I also demand a formal apology from this school district, Mr. Hill and Don Gagnon. The families of this community deserve better. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Just a quick question, or maybe it's a question for Michael. Were you made aware about this at all? So I appreciate you coming. You have the floor, you got the floor.
Thank you.
Thankful that you were able to speak. I just want to make sure that our superintendent is now obviously aware of this because I want to just make sure that the chain of command is followed. I want to make sure that.
Yes, sir. And that's what my wife and I started with this original IEP team, right? We tried to keep it in-house with the staff that we were working with. When we didn't get answers, then we reached out to Mr. Hill, and that was as of Thursday, I believe, last Thursday. 2 days have gone past. Our next step would have been to go to you, sir, directly, but it just so happened I also wanted to bring this up in the school board setting as well, because I know my voice needs to be heard. Other parents in the community need to hear this message as well of what went down. So not to, again, chain of command, I totally understand it, and sir, trust me, you would have been the next one in line if there wasn't a school board meeting
So I was made aware today that there was a parent concern, not to this detail at all. Can I get that as a copy? Do you mind if I get that, or you can email
Yes,
it
sir.
to me?
I can, is your email on the school
Yes.
website?
Yep.
I can definitely email you that. I can email you also,
Emails and everything.
yeah, all our emails, all the correspondence.
I'd like to start with that, please. Your comments. So I
Yes,
can
sir.
start.
Is it okay if I email you this as a digital copy?
Absolutely.
Okay,
That'd be great.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you again for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming down here.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Assuming there's no other public comment, we'll move on to the proposed operating budget. Next on the agenda.
Yep, we do have our advisory budget committee members here. Tracy's here, Ann is here, Edgar, Jen is here. If you folks want to come on up, I'll go over this budget with you. Grab a seat. So welcome to our advisory budget committee members. What we're doing this evening is I'm going to give a brief summary of the budget. This is the first look that the board has an opportunity, as well as you, to see what's known as the superintendent's proposed recommended budget. And this, after tonight, it's handed over to the school board for them to review it, make any changes if necessary. And that's what the majority of our meetings will entail from this point forward. So I'm going to start with just covering the first and second page, and then I'll go through how the binder's set up. So the fiscal year 27 proposed operating budget, we're looking at a 6.08% increase over this year's budget. And this is the operational budget. This is what we set the tax rate, is based on the operating budget. The total budget at $31,079,627 is a 5.01% increase over this year's budget. We did things a little differently this year, and we actually developed the default budget prior to putting together the proposed budget. The default as well as the proposed are still missing a few things, meaning our health insurance rates have not come in yet. They have until Veterans Day to give us those rates, and they tend to give it to us by November 1st. So our insurance rates that are in here are based on estimates as well as some of the other things. But we did build the default based on what our estimates are, and we'll make adjustments once we get those solid rates. The default budget is a 6.5% increase as an operational budget, and the total budget is 5.4% increase. So you can see that the proposed budget I'm bringing forward to the board this evening is below the default. Questions on that?
I actually have a question on healthcare. Is that still SchoolCare?
Yes.
Okay. So it's SchoolCare until June 30th?
No, we're still with SchoolCare until we decide, or if we ever decide to go with a different provider. SchoolCare is our.
I thought SchoolCare was.
Oh no, they're not dissolving.
They're not dissolved.
And I'll talk about that.
I was going to say, I'm
Agenda.
interested then.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, we'll still do SchoolCare. Other questions on the difference between the proposed and the default?
Yeah, I'm just having I missed something. So on the operational budget for 25-26, we're at 27,757. Proposed is 29,444,627.
Right.
But down at the bottom where we have a total budget at 29,597, it's at 31,079. That's where I'm missing something.
So your total, you're looking at the default budget, the total budget?
No, the top, in the proposed.
Okay. So our total budget for this year is $29,597,020. Okay. The proposed is $31,079,627. That's a difference of $1.4 million. That's a 5% increase.
So the tax rate is based off that first number, the 27.7, but then there are additional transfers from the expendable trust, transfers.
That's
Right.
Okay.
Such as food service as well as our federal grants.
So in a way, we're going left to right, but I think we're also doing
Yep.
perfect.
Yep. I knew I was missing.
So I put together a summary. Other questions?
Health insurance for default budget. What's that estimate based on?
It's based on the 15% that we put in as an estimate proposed as well, until we get our actual rates.
All right, but you're thinking that's a realistic estimate?
We were told the trend in New Hampshire from SchoolCare is 13 to 16%, so we went with 15%. Hoping that it comes in lower and not higher. So I put together a summary sheet for everyone. The next page, you can see what the contractual increases are that we're obligated to provide. And that health insurance, you can see out of the $1.6 million increase in the proposed operating budget, close to $1 million of that is in health insurance. Dental's coming in with an estimate of 5% increase, that's $30,000. Our longevity, which is part of the collective bargaining agreement, and our handbook is $49,000. Vocational tuition, that's up $23,000 based on the number of students that are expressing interest in going. We have more students every year attending our CTE program. Transportation is based on our 5-year contract. That's a little over $79,000. And then the 4th year of our collective bargaining agreement with the Teachers Association, Education Association is $379,512. And then track changes, which are also part of the collective bargaining agreement, is at $13,000. So you can see in the total contractual increases, it's $1.5 million out of that $1.6 million increase.
Okay, sorry, so I'm Jen Taylor, so I'm just new to this, so I'm gonna ask you
Sure.
a dummy questions if you want me, but the SREA, that's like the teacher association?
Teachers Association.
So we pay over $250,000 to the teacher association, but it's not tied to like individual salaries, or it is?
So in the collective bargaining agreement, there's a salary schedule that's in there that the board is bound to.
Yeah.
And the year 4 of that salary schedule is that $379,000.
That's going to our staff, not to an organization.
Right, that's what I'm trying to tease
It's
apart,
for
right?
raises.
For
Yeah,
raises,
okay,
yeah.
it's
Salary
going
raises.
to real people.
It's going to
Real
people.
And not like the org in the sky, okay, that's what I'm looking for.
Same
Thanks.
thing, same thing, Jen, with the track changes.
Yeah.
Those are going to our
Can you tell me what
employees.
track changes are?
Track changes are if one of our teachers participates in professional development that moves them from a bachelor's to a master's degree on the salary schedule, that's a track change. And if they continue to pursue graduate credits, the next track change after the master's would be a master's plus 15, that's a track change, and then a master's plus 30, that's another track change.
So you say if you add up all the salaries, it's $379,000
Correct.
for the school district? Wow, so
For the members of that association, which are
Okay.
teachers, nurses,
yeah,
school counselors.
it's quite a bit, but it's so less than health insurance. You know what I mean? Like, so it happens everywhere, but it's just crazy much with the health insurance.
And that health insurance number, the $996,000, are for all employees in the district, not just those members of the SREA.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. Why is longevity, like, why is it up? Like, is it based on last year's actuals, or why is there an assumption that it's 49,000?
Because longevity is based on those that qualify for it, and it's a bachelor step 1 in the number of years that employee's been in the district. So it's a formula. So we know what that number is going to be. Other questions on the contractual increases?
Transportation. I know that the bus company has problems with staffing like so many places, and it's affected things like my son helps coach the soccer team, so game move. Are we able to recoup any of our losses?
The only monies that we are recouping, I should say, we're not necessarily recouping them because we're not being charged for buses that don't run. So we have a process where if there's a bus that doesn't run for a specific, whether it's the morning run or the afternoon run, we track that on a spreadsheet. When the invoice comes in, we cross-check with the spreadsheet to make sure we're not getting billed for a bus that's not on the road. We can also bill for buses that are later than 20 minutes for a drop-off.
No penalty on their part for having to reschedule things when they can't start?
Not at all. It's not in the contract at all. They're meeting their contractual obligations based on the wording in the contract, and I'm sure there's the wording that we'll be looking at for the next negotiation round.
So Tracy brought it up, so now I'm just bringing it up. I think, and I don't know if other board members agree or disagree, but I think we should make a concerted effort to get realistic numbers on pulling some of the transportation in-house, whether it's co-curricular athletics or what, because it's not working. And I feel like we're actually in better shape than some other districts, but I don't trust that anything's gonna get any better. And can we at least give ourselves, for those categories, for example, some, feeling that we're actually gonna be able to get the games, events on time, basically.
Yes.
Sean brought that up. Again, just a good example is I know that the soccer coach for Mascoma, he already had a CDL. He went and he got bus certified. He doesn't miss games because he drives the team. And he drives the basketball girls team because he coaches them. If we had qualified people that were within our district willing to do that.
Yeah, I mean, at first I think it's worth just
Just-
doing some type of analysis to find out whether the cost saves us any money or provides better service. And then who's going to drive the buses?
Right, it's a matter of purchasing and owning our own vehicles. That's a significant expense, but I can see doing an analysis for that. What some districts are doing is they're purchasing 14 passenger vans to be able to deal with like the golf team or the soccer team if there's some sort of issue with getting a bus. Also for providing transportation to CTE centers, some districts are doing that now. We're going to be looking at a grant in order to purchase a couple of those vans. But then we also have to figure out what the cost associated with maintaining those. 14 passenger van, you just need a driver's license to drive it. So we would be able to avoid the CDL certification process, which is lengthy.
Keep still your medical card though,
Yeah.
regardless.
It's been a minute since the transportation negotiations. Do we not own the buses? I thought that was how we got them Shaker Regional School District branded.
We don't necessarily own the buses. We purchase for replacements. And then the replacements are usually taken off the road or reworked for another purpose. We don't house them in the district.
So I'm glad there's a little bit of interest there, because I know I brought that up 2 years ago, and then again last year. Everyone always looked at me like I had 3 heads when I was talking about trying to do some of the transportation in-house. So,
Just to kind of clarify, going back a little bit, I was under the impression that it was a reimbursement we were getting when a bus wasn't available. It was like X number amount that they would then return.
No, it's basically because we get billed, get invoiced on a monthly basis for our transportation costs. The total amount is in the contract, and that's with the assumption that all 12 buses are running every day for morning and afternoon. However, we get billed monthly for those costs. All right, so those are, any other questions on the contractual increases?
Remind me when retirements and stuff like that, when that's due, if somebody were to retire.
Tomorrow. Notification for separation is due tomorrow, October 15th. This budget doesn't include the 2 that we've received so far, but we have until tomorrow.
It does or
It
doesn't?
does. It does.
So if there's only 2, does that number go down?
No, so the 2 requests that we've already received are already in the proposed operating budget. If we receive more as of the end of the business tomorrow, this number changes.
Up or down usually for SUVs?
It tends to be somewhat of a wash because you have somebody that retires from the district, it could be a significant separation pay out at the end of that. However, the replacement cost, so we usually budget for a master step 5 single plan on our salary scale. So we don't see a very big impact when it comes to that separation pay on the budget. Good questions tonight. Any other questions on the contractual increases? All right, other proposed changes, administrator and specialist salary and fixed costs, it's at a 2.9% increase in this proposed budget. I wanted people to understand where I came up with the 2.9. So the estimate for COLA for 26 is estimated at 2.7%. However, that's an estimate. It's supposed to be out come tomorrow. However, with the government shutdown, we probably won't see that number, but they, based on what I saw, the estimate was at 2.7%. That could have changed since I put this budget together, which was as of last week, finalizing that. And also the consumer price index is between 2.8 and 3.2%. So based on the estimate for COLA and the consumer price index, I put those salary increases at 2.9%. Those are for administrators and specialists.
An example of who a specialist is for.
School psychologists, for example.
They're now saying it's gonna come out October 24th.
So we'll keep an eye on that. That'll be discussion for the board to have around what those salary increases are when those numbers are solidified and or whatever number you decide on. I just wanted to make sure people were aware where I came up with 2.9%. Based on the estimates for COLA and the consumer price index. Support staff, non-affiliated, salary and fixed costs, it's at a 5% increase. That's around $34,000. I'll explain where I came up with the 5% for that as well by discussing the next item, which is support staff. These are support staff that are on a salary scale based on our staff handbook. And what we did is we added 50 cents to step 0, which adjusts your whole scale all the way throughout. Adding 50 cents to that first step, and it's 2% between steps. And when you add the 50 cents and the 2% between steps, the average is 5% increase. So our support staff would be getting an average of 5% increase. Therefore, the non-affiliated support staff that are not on the salary schedule, we came in at the same 5%.
So support staff like, school nurse, cafeteria, is that support staff?
Cafeteria, yes. So our food service, custodians, secretaries, those are support staff. Our classroom assistants, our one-to-one behavioral assistants, those are all support staff. The non-affiliated support staff would be our support staff that work out of the SAU office. And that's the difference between the two. But the majority of our support staff are on the salary scale. And then personnel changes, eliminating 2 open special education teacher positions for a savings of $144,000. That is based on, fortunately, we have fewer students in the primary grades that are qualifying for specialized services. Therefore, our numbers are actually decreasing, which is a good thing. That would require those special services. And so that would be one of those special ed teacher positions is at the elementary level, at BES specifically, and then the other is at the high school level. And my reasoning for that, again, our numbers are decreasing, which is a good thing, but also we have not been able to fill these positions, so I felt carrying vacant positions that I'm not feeling like we're going to be able to fill those, and the numbers don't justify it. I took those 2 positions out of the proposed budget. Our school to work coordinator, that is a individual that works at the high school that works specifically with our students to develop career pathways and connect them with local businesses. Her time is very limited with the amount of work she's trying to provide, the support she's trying to provide with our high school students. So we're looking at increasing her hours to 5 days a week, 5.5 hours. So for a school year, that comes out to 252 additional hours for that position, which is a little over $10,000.
Can you say that again, 5 days a week?
5.5 hours. That's not how our contract reads, but that's how the math works, because there are some weeks that she'll work more than that, and then there might be weeks that she works fewer than that. So it's a total number of hours for the school year.
Is that $10,000, does that include, benefit package as
Fixed
well?
costs, yes. And then the athletic trainer is in there for $30,000. You'll see that will show as an increase in this proposed operating budget. However, I just want to remind the board took action on this last year for us to work within this year's budget to bring the athletic trainer in. It actually comes out to close to a $15,000 increase from this year to next year, because they're quoting us at $15,000 per season, and we have 3 seasons, which would be the $45,000 for the athletic trainer this year, based on board action last year. we had budgeted $34,500 in this year's budget. So it shows as a $30,000 increase, however, it's really, if you were to see what the amended, it's going to show as an increase of $30,000 in the proposed operating budget.
Is that like a part-time position that supports the after-school? They're not, are they there throughout the school day, or are they there really to support the after-school sports programs?
Before the school day starts, as well as after school,
Okay,
working with our athletes.
okay, even before school, and they actually,
Yes.
what happens before school?
It's a contracted service, so
Yeah.
we work through Granite State Physical Therapy, I believe is the name of the organization.
Okay. But some kids require or need support before the school day even starts.
Sometimes some strike training to make sure that they are working off an injury and be able to return to play. So total other proposed changes, $61,949. So if you look at the 1.5 and the 61, that's a little higher than the $1.6 million proposed increase. And then below it, the department-specific requests for budget committee members that aren't aware of this, the school principals as well as the administrators that oversee departments such as student services, athletics, information technology, they put their budgets together, and based on their requests, they're actually coming in $19,000 lower than this year.
So is it true, like the details of these? I'm like, oh, I can just start flipping through there and find it?
Yep,
Okay.
yep. I'll explain how the budget book's laid out. It's all in there.
Yeah, thanks.
And what I did is I tried to highlight where the increases are and make sure there are notes.
Yeah,
throughout
because on the surface, it looks like athletics, and maybe I'm reading it wrong. It's like, contractually $30,000 a year, but down below almost $35,000. So it's shaping the picture of athletics going up $65,000.
Right. The majority of it's at $30,000.
Yeah, that's good. So all this is contractual, like they're elected or contracted to do it. Top start?
The top section, Jen, is what's contractually required. The next section, other proposed changes, are the proposed changes that I put into my proposed budget.
Yep.
Some of those are based on requests from other administrators, my administrative team,
Yeah.
who will be here next Tuesday to answer specific questions for their budget.
So I'm afraid I'm getting into the weeds too much, but I have to ask this.
Okay.
The 30,000 athletic trainer, that's incorporated in the plus 34,900 below, because it's a contracted service.
Yes.
It's not a position. Yes. But the decrease of 144 for the two special ed positions is not incorporated in the minus 111 at the bottom.
It is not. So the administrator-specific requests, such as coming from the schools and the departments, they do not have access to salaries in their budgets. That's all run through our business office. So
just looking at it, granted, like real 1,000 feet, it's like $250,000 increase for special ed, because it's 144 and 111.
yes.
So I might have got confused at the beginning of what Sean said. Is that 30,000 for the athletic trainer counted twice? So our numbers are, no.
No, it's not. When you see the athletic budget, you'll see in contracted service an increase of $30,000
And
because of the
then there's a different 34,900. That's also.
You won't see that in the proposed budget because it was part of our amended budget this year. The board approved last year $34,500 for the cost of an athletic trainer this year. So we absorbed those monies in this year's budget. However, when you're looking at the budget lines, you'll see that as a $30,000 increase because it's based on this year's operating budget, not the amended operating budget.
Right, but it's not a $64,000 increase.
$30,000.
It's, right.
So total, that's
So
one
is it being
point.
counted twice?
No, it's not. It's not. This is the summary. I mean, I could bring you to the athletic
No,
section.
I'm
and
looking at
rationale. You are?
Yes,
Okay.
I
You
see it.
It's 30,000.
Yes, but the total at the end is 34,900, which includes,
There are other increases in other lines that bring it up to the 34,900.
right. And my own. This is why it's all, that's a different conversation.
Yeah, that's next Tuesday, we'll have an opportunity to ask those questions. So that's the summary sheet. You know, your total, looking at all of those items, is $1,613,221, which gets you very close to what the proposed operating budget increase is.
Did you go with a special ed amount? Minus 1.
Yeah, that's based on fewer out-of-district placements as well as fewer contracted services that we need.
That's a decrease.
Yeah. That's where the $111,000 comes from.
Graduates or moving out of district?
Tracy, I don't know that specifically,
Just was curious if they were gonna.
but you never know.
That's why I asked.
It's a
if they
variable that-
graduated.
Tanya will be here next Tuesday, if you'll answer that. So again, the purpose of tonight is to really just give you an overview and a summary. For those that aren't familiar with the way we put the budget books together, and I'll go through that. You can see the next section is titled Budget Summary. That gives you a summary of all of the functions that are within our budget. And then the budget detail is the next section. That's the proposed operating budget. That's the full detail, every line that's within the budget for every function. And then the next section is known as the rationale sheets. This is what you want to focus on for next Tuesday, because this is where the administrators will be here to answer specific questions regarding their budget requests.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, like, you might want to go through like the budget detail of all those pages, but I definitely think that if you can only hit one thing by next week, it's that one
So
section.
this is where we'll see that detail of those ups and downs from your first thing.
Yes. And really, we focused on, if you just flip to the first page under rationale sheets, first section is our technology budget, at page 1. You see the actual note that's on there. It says 24, 25 lease and so forth. Just slightly up from the bottom of the page on the left.
Yeah.
So under some of these lines, you'll actually have descriptions that indicate why that is either an increase or decrease. You will not have that detail for every line. We try to give descriptions for those lines that might be a significant increase or a significant decrease, but you won't see descriptors for a $200 increase or even a $1,000 increase unless we feel it's something new that people need to know. But you have all the opportunity next Tuesday to ask all the questions on any of the lines here. So I would say homework for next Tuesday is this section of the binder.
One other thing about these sections is that you're not going to see the breakdown of these regular education, special education. So that 4-digit code after the first decimal point, that's going to be your code, and you can check back to the budget detail to see what department it goes to. So that got me the first time I looked at this too. So just wanted to throw it out there.
So that reminds me, thanks Alice for reminding me that, and you asked this earlier, Mark, the budget calendar is not in here. I just realized that, so I'll have that for you for Tuesday. I know that all board members have that budget calendar, and I know all advisory budget committee members have that calendar as well, but I'll get you a hard copy to put in here. As we move through the process, things that either the committee asked for or the board asked for, we'll bring hard copies, hole punch it. I'll let you know what section it should go in the binder so it stays nice and organized for you, or you can organize it any way you like because it's your binder at this point. So on that note, I know Debbie Thompson, our business administrator, has a list of all of the names of the functions and the codes that go along with that, as well as any other descriptor for the budget. We'll get that to you as well, definitions, if you will.
And if it's your first time going through one of these budgets, it's a daunting task.
I think most of those.
Yeah, and please don't be afraid of asking what you think might be a dumb question, because it's really not. We've all been through it.
Honestly,
Sounds
other people are,
fantastic, like,
other people are probably thinking the same thing.
Right, yeah, so don't be intimidated by that at all.
And the questions are important because, for us, the advisory budget committee is bringing us thoughts and opinions and topics that we might not be thinking about. So please don't hold back on any of the questions that you feel you need to ask.
That's why we want you here.
Particularly if it's something that you feel you need to learn about, we're more than happy to teach you. Okay, next section are the trust fund amounts, the balances. So you see that you'll have those that lays out all of our trust funds, and that's as of July 1st, 2024. I'm sorry, June 30th, 2025 are those balances.
Is that first one, facilities and grounds, does that incorporate the high school paving? Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah, it does not.
I don't believe so.
Okay. So that one definitely lower than 500.
It might be though.
I'm guessing
Debbie will
since
know
the
that.
project was done in August,
Yeah.
Yeah.
around Old Home Day, when
Yeah.
we had the Old
Yeah.
Day.
Debbie could get us an updated number.
So that number there would be specific to that date, whether there's been a.
I just wasn't sure if we had
at that
paid
point,
for
it
it
could be
technically,
less.
so I think we paid what the service.
Oh, because I see now, this is as of June 30th.
Yep.
Got it.
Okay. Next section, we have 2 capital improvement plans in our district, one for building and grounds and another for information technology. These are the current capital improvement plans that we're working off of. Some of these items you'll see in the proposed operating budget.
Buildings and grounds is working on updating that specifically.
Yes. Next section, revenues and apportionments. We don't receive those until mid-budget cycle. Once we do receive those estimated revenues, we'll have that for you to put into this section. Same thing with health, dental, and retirement. Once we get our set rates, we'll include that for you as this section. Next section is staffing. What I did provide to you is our most up-to-date organizational chart for the SAU office as well as the 4 schools. That lists all of our employees and where they're located. And then the last page of that section is the most up-to-date vacancy list. So we have our organizational charts as well as our current vacancies. So that's under staffing. Next section is other. What we included here are class sizes for the middle school as well as for the high school. I know that's Mark, that's something you had requested, so we want to make sure that we put it in the budget book for your consideration. And then the next section is the summary of the default, same as similar to the budget summary, where this is where we summarize all the functions for the default. And then the last section is the default itself. So that's the binder.
Right, so the default is at the end, but the proposed is further.
Correct. So that is a summary of the budget, how the binder looks, and
A lot of work.
take it from here. Our next meeting is next Tuesday with the administrators, and then we have several meetings all the way up until our public hearing, which is in January.
So,
come from a different background of the town where we see administrators every meeting, different ones per department. We'll see them all.
See them all next
time.
Tuesday. Any other questions?
Yeah, if I really want to geek out, like, is this available electronically somewhere that I can just have like a read-only copy or something? Because like, I like just for percentages on the end, and you know what I mean? It helps my brain understand it better when I see it's, oh, it says 52% of this bucket, and it's 35.
Reach out to Debbie
Okay.
Thompson, who's been in touch with you.
Yeah.
If she has any of that
Okay.
information available for you
Like,
electronically.
read-only copy is fine, and I'll just do my puttering.
Okay.
Okay. Yep.
All I have are hard copies for you right now.
Yeah, no.
PDF version
Yeah,
potentially, but any other thing you want to manipulate,
Yeah.
work with Debbie on.
Okay.
Okay. So that's all. I'll see you next Tuesday.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is it okay if I stay?
Oh, yeah, sure. Feel free.
All right. Next up on the agenda is the Delegate Assembly Proposed Resolution. So, I don't have it pulled up. So there were, I forget the number, like 11 proposed resolutions. The plan is to basically go through each one, although some of these are related to others. But basically the goal of this is, it's not really an action item, but kind of come to a consensus as the board to give Alice some direction for when she attends that on
October 20th.
So the first one up is the number, so there are some, I forget the term I use, but basically the resolutions that are always annual resolutions, 12 of them. So then these are the proposed ones, starting at number 13. So number 13 is submitted by Hanover and Dresden school boards. It is about open enrollment. So, so let's go through the NHSBA Board of Directors recommendation, which is they support an alternative resolution, and so they give wording for alternative resolutions. I guess in the interest of time, I'm going to go through each one of these. Is there any feedback on this overall? Or any objections to the alternative resolution?
Well, I liked the alternative language because it is specifics around legislation that have effect on projecting revenues. So it's really about, it's not to me, they worded it so it's not about whether anyone agrees with open enrollment, but it's really about the projection of revenues, which revenues and expenses. So, because the way the bill that would have almost went through was related to, it could happen after we'd already passed the budget. And so we would be paying tuition and we wouldn't have, there'd be no way to know. We might get revenue in, but, so anyway, I appreciated that.
Is there any opposition to going with the alternative resolution?
I'm on the fence. I clearly appreciate both sides of this entire issue. At the end of the day, we're not really any good good solutions.
Alright. So then are we going with alternatives?
That's what I'm. All right, so 14 is also an open enrollment one, and basically what the board of directors is saying, hey, we already created an alternative one in number 13. So we want to stand by that alternative language in number 13. Won't we just- I don't remember the actual process. I think 14 just doesn't get seconded, or I forget what happens that day.
I do too. Barrett will go over it. He'll go over it that day. But if we're sticking with the alternative resolution for 13, then I can make a determination once Barrett sort of explains how the process works.
And then just moving ahead to 15 because it's also related. So Oyster River basically wanted to say NHSBA opposes legislation that promotes or mandates open enrollment. And again, they basically said, adopting the alternative resolution that was stated in number 13. Stick with that? All right. 16. Proposed resolution is NHSBA proposes that the state fully fund all state public education aid formulas before the funding of any other state obligation. And the board of directors' recommendation was they support an alternative resolution, which is basically to add to their existing one. NHSBA proposes that the state fully fund all state public schools, public school districts, and public education, and aid formulas before the funding of any other state obligations. So I think what they're doing is they're adding public into that stuff to highlight public education.
Great idea. And impossible with our current revenue, how we generate revenue. And I had a lengthy conversation with some legislators years ago that basically, no one wants to support a sales tax. However, if you're going to go broad-based tax in New Hampshire, a sales type tax is the way to go based on tourism. And so, you know, if they actually are going to fund education with it, but on the receipt, it doesn't say sales tax, it says education tax, and the written legislation that goes with it says every nickel will go to public education. That's the only way it's going to work. Otherwise, they siphon off money to go here, there, and everywhere. But until something like that is in existence, I mean, you can say this all you want, pound the table, but it's all it does is sound good on paper.
So are we good with that alternative? All right. Moving on to number 17. Proposed resolution is NHSBA opposes the inclusion of amendments to proposed bills that are not germane to the subject matter of the proposed bill. So I think, if I remember correctly, in short, basically every bill has, a topic, but then other things get attached to the bill.
Yes.
And so what they were saying is they don't want to allow for that. But then the board of directors says they did not support this because the opposite could come up where there are germane topics that do help public education. So they appreciate the intent of the proposal. We believe that the proposed resolution is too limiting in directing NHSBA's legislative advocacy. So they do not support this proposed resolution.
I would be an advocate for a clean bill, but, or for any bill being a clean bill, because I think the good outweighs the bad. If you need something else, then craft some legislation for it. So I would be in support of that.
I think the concern would be, even if the NHSBA supports it, they can't control it. So if the opposite were to be true, that there were public school pieces and other bills that are considered germane, if we don't support this, they can't support those public school things.
Is that true?
I think that's what they're saying.
Wow.
I mean, if we don't want them to support germane topics,
No.
then they have to be consistent basically and not support any of them. I think that's what they're saying. Second, there may be times when NHSBA would want to support a non-germane amendment, depending on the nature of the amendment in the bill.
That would force them to basically stay in their lane. Nothing wrong with that, in my opinion.
So I don't read it quite that way. I think it just, meaning I think, first of all, in general, I support this concept of, I agree with Mark that
Yeah.
a clean bill should be a clean bill, like, because the stuff that gets attached to things, in my opinion, is crazy. That's, I think the hard part is what would they do for opposition of the inclusion of amendments? I don't think it's saying if an amendment that's not germane to the bill gets included, that they couldn't potentially support it. But I actually don't, I think this is outside the scope of what they should, what is their lane, which is about education.
Where I landed.
It's about education, this is not specific to education.
Oh, it's
So-
definitely not specific to kids.
So, in that respect, that's why I would support it for them.
Not support, I'm in the same boat, anybody else? Yeah, some type of consensus. Very good. All right, number 18. Raymond School District. All schools that receive state and/or federal funding shall comply with all state and federal laws regarding testing, hiring practices, and special ed inclusion. Don't remember exactly what the rationale said after I read it, but I think this is kind of a dig at some of the charter schools and some of the other schools that get funding from the state now, who don't require some of the things that are required in public schools. Tries to basically level the playing field.
Well, it's not charter, it's just so clarity, charter is a public school.
Okay, so like what other
You have to
schools?
follow, it would be private schools. Private schools that don't receive federal money don't have to follow any requirements. That's, so it's, charters are public schools, so they are held to the public school pieces.
This is where the tying in the vouchers. So any school, because vouchers would be considered public money.
Right.
So
So the private school is, in a way, a public money.
They are, that's why overall, I support this. For me, if public money is going, then, but
So,
they're saying it undermines their take on vouchers, essentially. So if you're opposed to vouchers, one of the reasons you can be opposed to vouchers is because it's directing money, and the truth is you can discriminate.
So I think, like what they're saying is that if we support this, we're basically supporting vouchers, but we are requiring this part of it. They don't want
Yes,
to
it's
support
that.
vouchers. That makes sense?
Yes, that is what I believe you're saying.
Like I said, the directors wholeheartedly agrees with the sentiment and intent of the proposed resolution. However, that's why. So I'm inclined to go with the not support because I get what they're saying.
I personally struggle on this one because I actually support it. I'm, regardless of what I think about vouchers, I'm separating that aside.
You understand what they're saying, huh?
I understand what they're saying, but, and maybe the only way I can see for here, for us, is that for us being the School Boards Association is, it's not applicable to us, so therefore I'm okay with them not supporting it. But I guess at some point, I don't know who does advocate for making sure those things. I don't know, I'm just talking this out,
I would just say read on it, that you do.
So the other thing I would highlight is it says like at the end, NHSBA has not testified or taken any position on any of the bills about vouchers. Out of concern, NHSBA does not object to vouchers, those criteria and conditions. So that's in a nutshell why they're saying.
does NHSBA, and I didn't look this up, have a resolution that they don't support vouchers?
I have to look in those talk. Well,
It's okay, I'm good with whichever way the board wants to go. And I actually would be really interested in the discussion.
yeah, actually.
More than anything else,
Well, there'll be a 2-hour discussion about guns too.
this is more interesting.
I've gone 2 years, and those are that was a big topic.
It's not that big of a topic last year.
Literally, like, one of them was online, I was actually doing it. It's like,
I think it goes in waves. I think certain topics go in waves.
all right, so unless I hear otherwise, I'll support, we're okay with it. All right. I think the next one is number 19, Raymond School Board. School infrastructure is a critical component. And proposing a strengthened school building aid program, and they put a number on it, starting with $16 million annually, with a scheduled increase every 2 years. And the NHSBA Board of Directors does not support it because they believe they have 2 existing resolutions that already address the topic in this proposed resolution. 2C and 2Q. We'll just spell that one back.
I thought it met their other resolutions. I'm curious if anyone else thought differently. I feel like the existing resolutions covered it. But I'm curious if others did.
Yeah, I think it's clear, like almost like in hindsight, they probably should have just done that.
Well, I was gonna say, why would they consider this if that was an option? there something that potentially they're missing?
They didn't put that in the rationale that I saw. Other than they put a dollar amount, like, they actually put some money behind it. Whereas the existing ones don't talk about money, they just say, we fully support funding this building.
Realistically, take $60 million and spread it out over the stations. What does that do for it? No, not much. You'd have to increase that by factor of 10 for it to be effective on a yearly basis.
Definitely a competitive request. All right, so the board of directors recommendation is not support. I'm okay with that. All right,
I do like the dollar amount that they assigned to it. I think that that's something that probably should be done.
I'm curious, can you explain the difference, and it's okay, but what's the difference between the new resolutions and then the continuing one? Because it made me think, Kate, when you were saying, like, what do they do? Meaning, if this has been in here, does that mean NHS Support Association would then testify to support? And then if this passed, the 60 million, does that mean we've already?
When that happens, so basically, and I've only done this 1 year, but what happened last year, there was not a situation quite like this, but it was sort of similar. They talked through all of the continuing resolutions, and then when this came up, there was a very lengthy discussion and a whole lot of instruction on how we needed to vote effectively. Because they did have to kind of go back to, there was a lot of back and forth, and ultimately, it really depends on how the discussion goes and which way people vote. So, they have their discussion about the continuing resolutions, and then once everyone votes on this one, we may have to go back and amend those continuing resolutions is essentially what would happen.
But I guess my point is, I think the deadline for LSRs, essentially to file a bill, has passed. So even this resolution with 60 million, blah, blah, whatever, like, unless there's already a bill in the pipeline, I don't understand what this would do.
So it would, both you and Alice are correct. So basically what would happen, and this is what happens during that meeting, is that they might amend some of the continuing resolutions based on the new proposed resolutions, or they adopt a new proposed resolution, and then if it's adopted, or they if they adopt a new one or amend a continuing one, that is the platform that NHSBA stands on when any type of legislation comes in that addresses those resolutions.
but they're not creating legislation, so it's
No.
basically just their
It's
guidance.
giving testimony whether they're supporting new legislation or opposing new legislation based on their resolutions as an organization.
So for me, like the way proposed resolution, it almost looks like could be a bill, is my point. That's why obviously it's not written in bill language, but that's why I was trying to figure out, like, for me, fully funding, there's not, in the continuing ones, there's not a lot of parameters around it. But to me, that's because you don't actually know what the
Parameters of the bill.
parameters of the bill are. So that's why I asked the question.
Yeah, like if that had said $500 million, it doesn't mean the School Board Association is creating a bill that adds $500 million. It just, if somebody proposed adding money to Delegate, they would definitely support it. In fact, they might even testify that we really should have $500 million, it should be $15 million. All right, so moving along.
I don't know.
Not support. All right, number 20, Concord School Board, basically revolves around advocates of the state legislature to create a universal and subsidized meal program for New Hampshire public school students. And again, the board of directors is saying their recommendation is not supporting this because they believe the existing NHSBA resolution addresses this subject, where it says NHSBA supports the state and federal government seek and provide viable, sustainable, permanent funding to provide a school breakfast and lunch at no cost to students and at no cost to local school districts. So they feel like they've already covered that one in that existing.
That and the definition of a healthy breakfast and or lunch is quite questionable. Start cooking bagels in a plastic wrapper in a microwave. So it's kind of an oxymoron. So no, I would not be in support of that.
I can't speak to the bagel part
Specifically.
It's a very vivid image.
Well, it's, I mean, the package swells right up and
Why did you know that?
oh, it's, yeah. The whole program in the federal government went through COVID. And
Oh,
so my kids were so excited to actually eat the lunch. And I mean, what is being offered versus what we were sending was such a dramatic difference.
Yep.
If you're just looking for calories, those federally funded breakfasts and lunches, they provide calories, but not much more than that.
Yeah.
All right, number 21, Concord School Board proposes one that basically talks about opposing current New Hampshire state law that does not require state and local law enforcement to enforce federal law of gun-free school zones.
There will be more discussion about that.
Yeah.
This is the 2-hour one.
Well,
In 2024.
it's typically a pretty hot topic because you've got, 50%. I didn't like how the proposed one.
I mean, the fact that they want to ban firearms within 1,000 feet of school property, that's completely unrealistic. I mean, we have houses within 1,000 feet.
Well, I don't support it because of the reasons here, where one, it was just resubmitted, and then it looked like at the 2024 delegate assembly, they were gonna vote on alternative language, which
Yeah.
apparently was above, and then it was withdrawn, and so I'm not inclined to do anything different than what has already been done.
Since the delegates did not support last year's proposed resolution, nor the proposed alternative resolution, the Board of Directors does not believe another resolution on this topic is necessary. That's kind of iffy to me because membership changes on a year-to-year basis. So I don't necessarily like that part of the rationale. I understand the rest of it as far as
Just the nuts and bolts of it. I mean, if something like that was actually effectively implemented, if someone gets pulled over for speeding, on the road right here, now they've committed a felony because they're within 1,000 feet of, of a school in possession of a firearm. I mean, the logistics behind it is ludicrous.
All right, 22, submitted by the Hooksett School Board, advocating, NHSBA should advocate for legislation to amend current statutes to allow a simple majority vote threshold, 50% plus one, for the approval of school infrastructure projects that support the maintenance, repair, or improvement of existing facilities. Right now it's 60%, I think is what the for bond articles and such. And the board of directors supports an alternative resolution, which basically says that will allow for lower voter/legislative body thresholds to approve bonds intended for the maintenance, repair, or improvement of existing school district facilities, especially when the major portion of the borrowed funds are essential to bring such facilities up to fire and other safety requirements, or improvements necessary to meet the requirements of the minimum standards for school facilities.
I'm fine with the alternative, but I'm like, what does major portion mean? And I have many questions about that, but I agree with the intent behind it. I would tighten it up, but.
All right, we'll go with the 23, also submitted by Hooksett, asking NHSBA to advocate for legislation requiring the state of New Hampshire to fully and consistently fund the catastrophic special education fund, ensuring districts are reimbursed in accordance with existing statutes, and that students with high-cost educational needs receive the services they are entitled to without compromising other local education programs. And the board of directors does not support, and they believe they have numerous existing resolutions that speak to full funding, both for adequacy aid and special education. And they listed 5 cases.
Well, not only that, but I mean, there's all sorts of legislation that requires, adequate funding, and that's completely ignored. So, what's the point in adding another one? I feel like a Debbie Downer right now. Sorry.
They do have other ones existing, so they're just saying, we use our existing ones. All right, and then the last one is submitted by Monadnock. Supports amendments of RSA 91A to allow individuals with a disability as defined by the Americans with Disabilities Act, or because they are caring for a household member with such a disability, to be counted as attending in person for the purpose of the establishment of a quorum. And the board of directors had a recommendation of having some alternative resolution. And they put that, I'm not going to read it, but it's down below highlighted. So I think the concern was, maybe I just inferred this, but basically somebody that wants to run for school board either has a disability or has a family member with disability. They want to be able to attend meetings remotely. But I think right now you have to have a quorum that's in person. And so if this were to make that more difficult, they don't want to require that quorum to be in person. So you could have, in our case, 6 people remote, 1 person here. So I think they support it, but they also have an alternative. And I went back and forth on this personally because part of me feels like want people to come out to the meetings, we should be there, but I also understand that there are different circumstances that people, families have to deal with that. Get the reason why they would want to change. So anyway, I'm inclined to go with the board of directors recommendation.
And you're also talking about a disability or somebody who's caring for a family member with a disability, so honestly, I'm surprised that's not covered by the APA.
So it's already there now, but what Sean just said is it's about the quorum. So and correct me if I'm wrong, but under 91A, there are different components, but it's all about the in-person piece in terms of counting toward quorum. Technically, not that we want to talk about this, but we could do that now.
If the board approves
Correct.
the absence of that number.
So they already allow for it now under.
I'm just thinking like there must be scenarios where a couple board members are out, and so the quorum would require that remote person to be
That's,
present.
right,
That's when we run into a problem as
Correct.
currently.
because it doesn't allow for that person who's remote to be counted towards the quorum.
But didn't you just say that we have the ability to allow for that?
We have the ability to allow for remote participation.
Oh, but not for a remote? Well,
So you could remotely participate tonight
It's the
if we have a quorum here.
well, then would someone be able to vote remotely? If they can vote remotely, then logistically they're part of the quorum if they're voting.
But I think the legislation currently is you have to have a quorum in person,
Correct.
quorum of the body.
Correct. And then you have to take roll call votes and you have to specify, there's a whole thing if you allow remote participation.
But this isn't just general remote participation, this is for specific reasons.
Yep, you have to identify, even now, you have to identify and have permission, and one of the allowable exceptions is caring for someone with a disability, whether it's a child or someone else.
So this just mandates the mechanism.
This
To allow-
This changes the quorum.
Right.
My sense is it's all about the quorum of,
Correct. That's my reading, it's all about the quorum. So it already allows for it now, just not the quorum.
so I'm good with your alternative.
All right, thank you, everyone.
All right. Oh, we're barely down the agenda.
I know.
Next up is the superintendent report.
Let's tackle school care, shall we?
Oh,
So it's been a topic of discussion. Clearly, it's also been in the press as well. So you all received an email from Debbie regarding the bill. It's a little over $600,000 that we received from SchoolCare to restock their reserves based on expenditures that were beyond what they anticipated. So where it comes to the board is that we've already submitted our DOE 25, which establishes our MS 25, which is what the state uses to set their tax rate. The towns. The state uses to set the tax rate, which goes to the towns as their tax rate. We have an opportunity to amend our DOE 25 because this cost of $622,382.76 is considered an expenditure from the 24-25 fiscal year. So we now, since it was billed as of June 30th, 2025. So the options that the board can consider would be to utilize our unexpended fund balance from last year, which we anticipated was going to be $971,459, and cover this cost of $622,000 out of that, which would leave your expended fund balance that would go back to offset taxes to $349,076. And to keep what the board has already approved as their retained fund balance for this year, which is $700,000. So that would be mine and Debbie's recommendation how to handle this bill. And we're fortunate that we have that amount in the unexpended fund balance, and that we can amend our DOE 25 to reflect that expenditure.
What's the impact on the taxes?
Don't know because we don't know what the tax rate.
I know, but we projected returning 900,000. So if we only return 300,000, did Debbie run what it would be based on what she previously ran?
No. So your other option is to amend your retained fund balance for this year from the 700,000. We don't recommend that because if you think about it, who knows if we would get a bill like this at the end of this school year or during the school year, and if we didn't have the unexpended fund balance and our retained fund balance, we would be in situations such as other school districts trying to figure out how to pay this bill.
Did they explain how they got so far upside down?
Unanticipated costs around prescriptions, prescription costs, as well as just medical procedures.
I mean, because if Shaker is responsible for 600 grand, extrapolate that out over however many, however many districts, I mean, we're talking a massive amount of money.
And I think Canterbury uses SchoolCare.
Canterbury town offices do use SchoolCare, their town officials use.
So they receive the bill as well. I'm sure it's
Do
less.
we know what it is?
It's less than this because they have fewer employees.
Don't quote me on it, I wanna say it's 400 or 450, don't quote me on it.
I spoke to Michael already about this, but I do want to point out, I did have a conversation with the chair of the Governor of Wentworth School District who called me, actually I work for him, but that school district has a $1.6 million bill,
Right.
obviously much more than ours. Another option is, and I'm not advocating for this, but I just feel like we had a conversation, so I feel obligated to let everybody know. They are, at this moment, fighting that to some degree, and using their legal counsel. They have some information on their website, so go home and look up the Governor of Wentworth School District. One of the things they mentioned is, at this juncture, the board has not yet received sufficient legal justification from SchoolCare that it has the legal authority to assess its members, or that members are contractually or legally obligated to pay an assessment issued by SchoolCare. So, in talking to him, their legal counsel thinks they may have some ability to push it back. But he also admitted that he talked to a number of school districts whose legal counsel says, no, you're not going to be able to fight this, and you're going to have to pay this. They are going down the route of not paying it right now and fighting it, but that could change at a moment's notice. I do know, he reminded me, but SchoolCare did put a due date on the bill as well, and they will be charging a fee if you don't pay it by that date. And then obviously, if we get our legal counsel involved, our chances are probably slim, and we're also paying for legal counsel, and if we don't pay it by whatever, January 30th, whatever the date is, we'll be subject to late fees as well. But I did want to share that information as far as that's where they're at the moment. Obviously, they're a much bigger bill. That's what they're thinking.
So legally, that's going to definitely be a tough fight because the law had passed that gives the Secretary of State the authority to require organizations such as Health Trust and SchoolCare to do these assessments if their reserves get low, to make sure that the reserves aren't low. So you would be, if you're going to tackle it from a legal perspective, you're going up against an organization that's following a law that recently passed. So that's the challenge. My concern around this thought process potentially of extending this out in some way and getting legal involved, first is the cost to the district, particularly if the chances are slim of winning. But more importantly is that it delays tax rate setting, meaning that both Canterbury and Belmont would be late setting their tax rates, which means that revenue coming into the town would be later than anticipated. And both towns potentially would have to request, don't quote me on this term, Greta, I think it's called a tax anticipated note or unanticipated note, where they have to front money in order to pay the bills. And that would all be based on the school district delayed tax rate setting process. That's my concern, because taxpayers and our towns would be feeling the impact based on us wanting to pursue the legal challenge. Now, here's a thought too. That check doesn't have to be cut until January 1st. So the board can still amend the DOE 25 and reflect the cost. However, that cost isn't provided to SchoolCare. That check isn't provided to SchoolCare until January 1st. And we weren't looking to provide that check right off the bat because we want to maintain the interest that we gain off those monies, not SchoolCare. So we were already thinking that we weren't cutting the check until mid to the end of December to meet the deadline. And so between now and then, there could be more information that comes out that the board can consider. But at this point, I would definitely recommend that we don't delay tax rate setting, and we can put all of this into motion and keep an eye on what potentially would happen.
Well, also, I mean, if, say, half the districts in the state of New Hampshire all band together and fight it legally, or even all the districts, fight it. I mean, you're looking at, they're going to have a shortfall, and assuming that they win, $150 million, if not, if not more. Does that completely cripple them and make them go away with the consequence of health trust completely going away?
Yeah, I don't know.
Our insurance rates go up 8%.
Right.
Right, yeah. So I think there's a lot of moving parts.
What's the, when do they have, my concern also is how late we're getting hit with this. So what are the parameters around that so that, because we make decisions and then 3 months later, they're telling us we owe them money.
I mean, that's the overall issue, is that it's late in the game. We didn't get any indication that this was going to happen. So we're getting hit with this bill, and districts are scrambling in order to pay this bill. My understanding is they have the authority to do that because of the new law that passed, and that's what made them go back to reassess their reserves and charge their membership to make up that pool. So we're fortunate that we can cover the cost without having to do budget freezes, lay staff off. Some districts are even talking about are doing what they can to make sure they're not offsetting the cost based on employee contributions, meaning charging their employees higher rates in order to cover that cost. So we're fortunate that we have the unexpended fund balance to cover it, as well as retained fund balance. That's through responsible and reasonable budgeting.
I'm curious why, I wonder, could we split the difference? I mean, we can do whatever we want, but it just feels like we said I'm worried about the impact of taxes. And so now we're only going to potentially give back $300,000, but yet we set aside $700,000. And I get that we don't want fluctuations, but I'm just thinking also short term. And I'm concerned we don't know the impact based
So-
on what we projected.
So I always thought that if we returned a lot to the taxpayers, that had a negative impact on our next year's budget. So in a way, I don't think this is a bad thing as far as the next year's budget goes, or tax rates or whatever. My bigger issue is, I don't like somebody's poor planning to
Right.
affect us, and oh, by the way, you owe us millions of dollars in 90 days. Like,
Well, that's where I asked, have they justified?
the CEO
the
keep their
request for
job,
money.
like, I don't understand.
Well, it sounds like now they can, so they do. If
Right.
there's a law behind it.
Right.
I'm not sure that it's poor planning, I think it's intentional. It
So
sounds
they didn't
intentional.
put out, this is what we have or what we want for reserves. This is what we're down to. I mean, had they provided that type of information? To say, hey, look, we try to hold $500 million in reserves. We found ourselves depleted to $200 million. So now we need to put this back up. I mean, in the absence of providing that information.
And I guess along with that is, I thought they must have enough money in reserve, because weren't they giving a tax holiday to all of us?
No,
I thought
years
we were
ago,
getting a payback or something. Was nothing reduced?
that ended, I want to say 3 to 4 years ago, that we would get that
Okay, so we did get something.
premium holiday. Yeah, years ago. When they had a surplus, it would offset our rates. That's been gone for quite some
I
time.
thought that was more recent, so.
Yeah, so no action needed.
No, so basically if the board is looking to utilize the unexpended fund balance to cover this $622,000, Debbie will send out a new DOE 25 for all of you to sign, just like you did prior. It'll be amended, and we submit that to the state. It adjusts our MS 25, and then the state sets a tax rate, and it'll come to the towns. So all you have to do is sign the amended 25.
And you're not cutting the check until the very, fall out. Last
December
minute.
31st,
Yeah. I don't want
11:59,
that.
getting on.
So can you explain though, because I'm not sure, I mean, we can vote, but I'm not sure I support that fully. Because if we reduce how much we set aside, that impacts the tax rate the following year. I'm not so sure, because didn't we return $1 million previously? I thought we were trying to stay stable, so I'm trying to understand the comment Sean made, that if we return the $1 million, 900 and whatever, that's negative to us.
The more you return, it shows as a loss of revenue when you go to do your tax rate estimates for the following year.
Right, but if we stay consistent,
If you can estimate that you're gonna have that same amount of money.
right.
So
But
it's a
just
gamble
to,
each year.
and just to be clear, the 900,000, nobody could have anticipated this, so I don't have a problem in terms of transparency. But we do not know what this is gonna do with the tax rate. I think it's really important that, and I have to say I'm disappointed that we couldn't have used what we used when we had the hearing to calculate what we thought it would be. Do you see what I'm saying? So when we did the hearing, we anticipated giving 900,000 back. And then we did a projection on the tax rate. And so I feel like I'm voting not knowing what it could be. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I do, because again, it comes down to the transparency piece, right? We want to be as transparent as we possibly can be at all times. I feel that this is easily explained, hard to swallow, but easily explained. That we did anticipate sending back $900,000. However, we got a $600-something thousand bill from SchoolCare that we were required to pay based on a new law. Therefore, that impacted that $900,000 that we sent back to only be $300,000. So explaining that is.
But then why would we keep the 700? That's what I want to talk about. Like, I'm trying to, I get it. I just need to process, like, why.
So,
We'll say the roof in Canterbury here collapses. We need that money to fix the roof. Like, it's our emergency fund. That's the only reason why we retain it. It's like when the kitchen went down and they bought all that equipment. That's what that fund was for. And I understand the whole tax, wanting to return the tax money and stuff. But at the same point, they've already taken it out of us. They've taken our money. So, I mean, how much is 900,000 really gonna offset our tax? I mean, the 626,000 gonna offset our taxes. I mean, my taxes keep going up leaps and bounds every year, so I mean, I don't really see it.
I don't know, because I don't have.
I'm just saying, I think it's pennies on the dollar. It's like,
I did not.
Because I know there was a couple of large ticket items that Debbie had actually crunched out what it was gonna wind up being her.
If people
per
are
thousand.
fine, it doesn't mean I
Well-
have to come on board. I'm just telling you.
oh, you don't have to come on, I'm just saying, I'm
I-
actually just after looking at the proposed budget, I know they did their due diligence and everything. I'm just like, what the hell? This is insane. This is so expensive. And at the same time, if we don't pay this bill, what's the fee if you don't pay this bill? Like, say we don't want to pay it.
No, I get it.
And then say, I think we're in trouble any way we go. Because if you don't return the 900 like we wanted to, then the taxes are going to be set off the way we want. But then the 700,000, we took it out of that. All of a sudden, I mean, there's no wood here, but knock on wood. Say something happens catastrophically to one of the schools, now we're like, oh, we don't have the money.
so I can propose another option is, I hate kicking the can down the road, but could we just hold off for 1 week? We put this as an agenda item because we're meeting next Tuesday anyway. Debbie will be here. She can give more of an update on how this impacts our budget. If we're actually doing that.
I'm okay if people want to vote.
This is not a,
Yeah, it's not an action.
It's not an action item, it's just, you would send it out and sign it. I'm just
We can
saying.
make it an action
So it's not-
item if we choose, but it's not.
Can we have this conversation?
We
as
did.
to, should this be an action item or is this
Well,
info?
why is it not an action item?
Your action item would be, because the board takes action, your vote was specific to the retained fund balance amount, not what you have for an unexpended fund balance. If you don't vote, you haven't voted on an unexpended fund balance, that total, you vote on your retained fund balance every year. So that's the action piece. The action you will take if you amend your unexpended fund balance would be your signature on the 25, agreeing to that. But as for a round the table vote for the board, that would be if you decide to amend your amount for the retained fund balance of $700,000. And yes, you could make it an action item this evening to vote on the retained fund balance if you decide to adjust that. Because you can have an action item if it's information, listed as information on your agenda.
Are we sure that this is just a one-time thing? Like,
No,
like-
that's why I agree with Jeff. We get hit with another bill like this and you drain your retained fund balance, we're
Right.
scrambling like other districts.
That's what I mean. I'm watching all the districts like Concord, they're just in trouble. I mean, I don't want to be, like Claremont and Concord. I don't want to be that. All of a sudden, yeah, we turn more money back, but then, like Michael said,
if
spring
that's,
we get nailed with something else.
exactly, if
And
that's the
I don't
case,
want to be in that position ever.
there's the potential for this to just continue happening. I'd rather have that larger retained fund balance because we could get the same $622,000 bill.
But are we, if we wait a week, we're not really impacting the house that much. And in that case, Debbie can give an explanation as to how that will also impact our budget stuff as well.
Doesn't
I'm
that make our
gonna
tax
put-
rate go in later?
What's that?
Does that affect our tax rate getting into the state? I think it's all about time.
It's a week.
I don't know. You guys do what you want. I'm just longer wait, like, I don't know. It's a mess.
I'm just, I guess in the future, I'd like some additional, that's just me, I'd like to know like what.
I agree with you. I'd like to know what it would be, but we're at the point.
We don't really have a.
We don't have
a
time.
choice. I
In the
just,
future, I'd like to not receive this bill, but like.
well, yeah, aside from that though, I feel like I wanted to make a more informed decision based on what we projected last at the hearing till now. But I understand,
Trust me, I hate spending money.
I know you do, so,
I
but
hate it with
you
a passion,
speaking
but
up
it
tells
just-
me a lot,
Yeah,
so
I
that's
just-
all I have to say.
We have, if, like, I know he doesn't know, because Debbie's the keeper of the numbers, but who knows what, if we didn't pay on January 1st, would be. They'd be like, okay, we're gonna charge you like a credit card, 36% interest. Now, you're looking at over $1 million. So, I'm just a fan of.
Do we have consensus
Spending it.
on Debbie sending out updated?
Yeah, I'm good with that, but I'd also, is there any way that, I'm sure other districts are gonna be asking the same question, can we ask for a detailed justification on how they got into the position that they're in?
An itemized bill.
Yeah, we have, there's a letter that SchoolCare sent out to their members that I can make sure the board members get a copy of that letter.
Thanks.
I think we have consensus.
So you'll see, the DocuSign will go out for your signatures tomorrow, I believe. That's SchoolCare.
I have one more question before we move on with this. Can we look for another insurance for the teachers? Can we go to do something different, or is this the only one that's able to provide teachers with insurance?
So any insurance provider that offers these types of risk pools are going to fall into the same law. Health Trust is the other large.
So we're handcuffed.
Yeah, not necessarily handcuffed, you could look for other providers, however it's limited, particularly they can handle the large number of employees that we have.
What,
And that's not always the savings either.
I'm past this bill.
So, but along with Jeff's point though, I have to assume you with the superintendents as well as Debbie with different BAs in the state, obviously you're talking about this, but that topic must have come up as far as, are there any alternatives? Are any districts looking at alternatives? I would ask that you keep an open mind.
Oh,
if that
absolutely.
comes up, but
Yeah.
like, I assume it's going to come up, and so if we do have an opportunity or something sounds good, we might want to investigate that.
I'm always open to any opportunity that's going to save monies, but provide, and also provide us the same or better quality service.
because we would need to look now if we were ever to change, 'cause we wouldn't be able to do it now.
Correct.
So
Because
now's
we're
the,
in a contract.
Yeah, I'm talking in the future.
no, I know, that's
Yeah.
why I was highlighting it, because now would be the time to explore if we were going to.
I will say if we have to break a contract, then this feels like justification to do so.
Problem is our employees would no longer have health insurance.
No, but I'm saying if we had another alternative, but we had to sit on it for a year or two until our contract was complete. I'm not interested in sitting down.
We might be worth discussing with legal anyway, with some of these questions that we've raised, like, is this the only bill that we're getting? Is this gonna happen again? But even if there's other schools in the state that are going to be fighting this, and we're not a school that's going to join that fight, I think it's worth at least getting people to look at it, to see if we can get those questions answered. Is this a one-time thing, or is this something we have to plan for in another 6 months to a year?
So that conversation has just started. I had an opportunity to speak with Jim O'Shaughnessy this afternoon. The attorneys across the state are just starting to talk about this as well. So as more information comes up and more questions are asked and answers are provided, updates will be given along the way. Just a couple updates, just sort of shifting gears here, just to give the board a heads up when I bring you the 26-27 proposed calendar. We will be looking at starting before Labor Day for next school year, because Labor Day is on September 7th, which is late, which would put our school year all the way into the end of June. So the thought process of starting after Labor Day, which would be the 8th, which is a voting day anyway, September 8th. So kids wouldn't be in session until September 9th, which pushes us way out into the June month. And I'll be bringing you one that's starting before Labor Day, just to give you a heads up on that. The other thing is we're currently starting to work on the survey questions for the strategic plan. We met with, meaning the district support team, met with IVIS, the consultants that have been working with us on the strategic plan. They are bringing us another draft of questions, which I'd like to be able to make sure that Sean, Alice, and Michelle get your thoughts on that as well, since you were part of the strategic plan process as representatives of the board. So once I have those, I'd like to be able to make sure that the three of you can provide some feedback on that as well. So that's all in motion right now for a potential fall survey to families and staff and students. So those are my updates.
All right, questions from Michael? All right, board member reports. Start with Michelle.
No, dude.
All right, moving along. CES PTO Leadership Week. We have information in the packet.
Busy group.
It's very impressive.
If you have questions, Michael. Next up is on the horizon.
So we are on for the joint meeting with town officials on the 28th. Both board of selection confirmed that there'll be some representative, I'm not sure how many, from each group will be here. At that point, you'll have more information about the budget when you start diving into that. So the discussion will be potentially around budgets as well as any other items of interest.
I will not be here on the 28th. I'm back for work.
I don't have the budget schedule in front. Would we be meeting that first week of November? All right, yeah, I'm going to training that week.
Yeah, budget development's on basically every board agenda all the way up to the public hearing, regular board agenda, and then we have work sessions in between.
Oh, you were asking if there was a work session first.
Yes.
November 4th, yes. I just checked.
All right, anybody wants anything to add? All right, enrollment report.
You see our district total as of October 1st is 1,107 students. One fewer than the September report.
Questions? All right, volunteer list. Action.
Make a motion to accept the volunteer list, the noted highlighted exceptions.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And internal policies.
All right, so we have a number of policies here. These are first readings, so these are just information. We're not voting on them. Do have one that we are proposing to remove, the physical education. Help me out. Is that covered in another policy?
So this is an optional policy from the School Boards Association, and it was drafted several years ago. It was brought into the district in 2000. We currently provide either alternative settings and or alternative curriculum if a parent requests that. We have a process that's covered in a bill, in a policy you folks just passed with the Parental Bill of Rights. So there's other policies that address that. I'm not really sure why it's specific to physical education. It's just not necessary. Therefore, the recommendation from the committee was to remove it. It's not necessary.
And the rest of these, we took a look at some of the new either amendments or some of the differences in the New Hampshire School Boards Association policies, and we brought in some of the information that we thought was pertinent. We do have a new policy, the therapy dogs policy, so that's a net new policy, so look at that one. Yeah, I can answer any questions if anybody has them.
So in reading the IMGAA therapy dogs, it starts out, actually goes through most of it referencing dogs and dogs only, but then towards the end it references just therapy animal.
So I think that may be because the New Hampshire School Boards Association policy has a therapy animal policy and we have a therapy dogs policy, and the part that you're talking about specifically, I'm assuming, is the aggressive or defensive behavior.
Well, just what I guess what I would be warning all of us, or Shake Reading would be, is to either reference dogs if we're only going to allow
Right.
therapy
And
dogs, or are we going to
I appreciate that.
open the gamut for therapy horses and
Yeah.
The reason for that is because we pulled this aggressive and defensive behavior portion from the New Hampshire School Boards Association
Yeah.
policy. It wasn't in the policy that was presented.
Yep.
So we pulled this in. New Hampshire School Boards Association has a therapy animal policy, and we just didn't catch it, so thank you.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So we'll make that amendment for the second reading. So anywhere it's referenced animal from line 30 down on page 3, replace animal with dog.
So our focus is on
Dog.
dogs and dogs alone.
Yes.
I had asked that same question, and Michael was very firm in dogs.
No, I'm fine with that.
Good.
So I don't know who to address this question to, but where did this come from?
We have a new school counselor at BES that has a therapy dog and requests us to bring that dog into school, not on a daily basis. So we contacted Primex to make sure that we had a sample policy through our liability insurance provider that we worked off of, as well as the School Boards Association. So the school counselor can utilize a therapy dog at BES. That's where it was initiated.
You don't have a poker face, just so you know.
I'm just a cynical person by nature.
When I worked in Andover, they had a therapy dog.
I'd love to bring my dog. I didn't train him properly.
IHBA, if you remove in the title the handicap students, probably did, that's outdated.
So just title it students with disabilities.
Yes. Because it references both laws.
Yeah.
insurance piece, the owner must submit a copy of current insurance policy.
Which policy?
Oh, sorry, dog.
He's focused on the dog.
Sorry,
I just wanted to double check.
I'm a dog lover, by the way, so.
We can tell.
Yeah.
Some. Do we require a certain minimum coverage for insurance, or they just need to have insurance?
You can state the specific amount that would be required.
For therapy dog insurance.
I mean, I guess what I'm concerned about is the district's liability. If other people, like, you know, every school has a dog, then something happens, we're all on the hook for that, I'm sure.
And in the policy, it's also the owner's on the report as well. So are you suggesting to look at?
I guess what I'm worried about is like,
Minimum amount would be for liability insurance?
I mean,
We
like
do
my
that.
own home insurance, I have a certain value for coverage, or like automobile policy. If you injure somebody, the standard is a certain amount. Like, I assume somebody has liability coverage, they have at least the minimum of what a typical liability is. But I don't know if we need to spell out something, or do they just need to have some, I have a $5,000 policy, cover 5,000.
I see, you make a good point. Let me look into that, see potentially what a minimum amount.
It just feels like they should have some
Insurance, yeah.
threshold.
No, it's a great point.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if that would fall under our homeowner's policy.
I'm not sure. I'll look into it. I'll touch base with Brian next to let me know.
Are service dogs different than therapy?
Yes, they are.
So their insurance would be different.
So I'm taking action on the first proposal. It is on.
Yes.
I make a motion to remove policy IHAE, physical education.
Second.
Second by Mark.
It's not a general matter.
Any further discussion on that specific policy? All right, all those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. The others will come next week. All right, next up are Appendix B nominations. Here in the non-public packet. Looks like there are two. Oh, sorry. Appendix B nominations. So,
Make a motion to approve the Appendix B nominations.
all right. Motion and a second. Any discussion in public? The public meeting? All right. Your motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I will abstain.
You, Mark, and both of you.
All right. Do you have a resignation packet? Do we have a plan?
Posted for the position.
Okay. And I assume the principal has figured out what the schedule will look like. I don't know how the specials work as far as. All right, acknowledge resignation. Is there anything else? Oh, do you have second opportunity for public communication and correspondence? Nothing in non-public.
I think that's something that I'll have to ask them
Before. Okay.
Make a motion